What's going on, Jerome's? The Vikings edge rusher room is really interesting this offseason because they signed Davenport. Zadarius Smith sold his house and says he wants to be traded. And Danielle's just there, right? And the Vikings could have all three back this year, conceivably. The Vikings could have 1 out of 3 with just Davenport. They could have 2 out of 3. So I don't know what's going to happen at this point, but pay Danielle. Pay Danielle freaking Hunter, man. And yes, Danielle didn't show up to voluntary workouts last week. Of course, they're voluntary. No, it's just a clear sign that you're unhappy with the contract or whatever. And Danielle, last year proved that he could stay healthy. The neck was not an issue. The neck was the big thing. Led the team in sacks, second in pressures, learning a new scheme, all that stuff. And Danielle, he's only 28 years old, and he is a star. He is a great teammate. He plays well against the run. He's due $4.9 million base salary because they've redone his deal several times throughout the duration of his 5-year, $72 million contract. So I think that the Vikings should extend Danielle and keep him in purple long term, but we'll see what happens. But Danielle, he's still in his prime. He's still absolutely a elite edge rusher as well as good run defender, and I would prefer that the Vikings keep him. But also, I understand why he would be the Vikings' most valuable trade piece at this point. So, looking around the league, like, if the Vikings aren't going to pay him, obviously it's a trade or extend Danielle's spot. So if they don't extend him, they're going to look to trade him. So here are 8. Ocho potential trade destinations for Danielle, the real deal Hunter. Now, we're basing the trade compensation off of what the Broncos got for Bradley Cooper. Bradley Chubb. What'd they get for Bradley Cooper? But Bradley Chubb, when he was sent to Miami with a 5th-round pick for a 1st and a 4th. So we're looking at that range of draft compensation up at 1. New York Football Giants. So the Giants have the 25th overall pick in the 1st round, and their 4th rounder will be 128. So that's roughly what we're looking at, a 1st and a 4th, or a 2nd and a 3rd and some change. But reuniting with Andre Patterson, and you do have Azeez Ojulari in the mix. You do have Kayvon Thibodeau. You do have Leonard Williams. But Danielle, his versatility that he showed over the last couple of years, where he could play an odd or even front, just could be added to that mix and would just give them a hellacious front seven. Like, we're talking about one of the best in the National Football League, so that makes sense in that regard. Next up, trade destination number 2 for Danielle, the real deal Hunter. Cowboys. So the Cowboys have 26, and their 4th rounder will be 129 overall. And yes, they have Micah Parsons. Yes, they have DeMarcus Lawrence to a degree, but adding Danielle to that mix, I think Danielle and Parsons would automatically become the best edge rushing tandem in the National Football League. So that would be a lot of fun for Cowboys fans, but would they be willing to part with their 1st-round pick? Potentially. Who knows? Next up, trade destination number 3 for Danielle Hunter. Texans. Now, this one gets a little bit spicy. So this one includes the Vikings shipping their 3rd-round pick, 87 overall, to get a more premium 1st-round pick. The Texans are at 12. And, yeah, I understand. It's very steep. It's a very steep price. And say they go quarterback at 2 versus going edge rusher like Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson. And what do they do at 12? They could obviously potentially trade up and be in the quarterback mix. They could look at receiver. They could look at cornerback opposite of Stingley. But DeMeco Ryans needs that alpha tone setter. He needs that premium edge rusher. Now, you be drafting one of these guys hoping that they will be good, hoping that they would be half the player that Danielle Hunter is right now. And Danielle is only 28. He's going to be 29 in October. He's still firmly in his prime, and that would make sense for DeMeco Ryans to bring down to Houston. Also, number 4, Texans, again, different combination. So it'd be their 2nd-round pick at the top of the 2nd, as well as top of the 3rd at 65, and then 104 overall. So alternate trade compensation. Next up, destination number 5. Seattle Seahawks. So they've been working to revamp their front 7. Pete wants to get back to playing bully ball up front. Signed Draymond Jones in free agency. And in the draft, it's a good edge class, but Danielle, just plopping him into that defense would be just amazing. It would be like him. Bobby Wagner is back. Jordan Brooks coming back from injury. Draymond Jones. So I think that, remember when Seattle was Vikings West? And not even talking about like Carl Eller and John Randall and Kevin Williams, but Sidney Rice, Percy Harvin, just seemed like Heath Farwell. It seemed like everyone headed over to Seattle. It was kind of weird. So Danielle could also follow suit. Next up, trade destination number 6. Patriots. So, like the first Texans deal, 14 for Danielle Hunter and 87, maybe a touch more change. But the Patriots, they have issues at quarterback. Yes, they certainly could shore up their offensive line. Yes, but adding to that front seven, where they do have Matt Judon, they do have Josh Uche, but Danielle Hunter, who can play hand the dirt, can play stand up. I think Belichick would value that versatility. And plus, Belichick has this weird thing where you're going to take prime guys who have a couple of years left. Obviously, Danielle has a little bit more than that, and then they just put him into the system. And Danielle in that Patriots front seven would be a sight to behold. Next up, number 7. Tennessee Titans offering 41. So, yes, we're moving Danielle for less than a first-round pick, but we're looking at a second-rounder, a third-rounder, as well as a Malik Willis. Now, not saying that Malik Willis is going to be the quarterback of the future, but getting him in camp, having him compete, the Vikings could still draft a quarterback, and just every single stone unturned and looked under to find the next franchise quarterback. And that's more of a throw-in at this point, since I think that Tennessee could go quarterback in the first round. And Bud Dupree's gone. They just have Harold Landry at this point. They re-signed Jeffrey Simmons, who's a stud on the inside. And they add Danielle to Mike Vrabel's defense. Be a hell of a get, man. Lastly, number 8. Chargers. So I know what you're saying. Chargers already have Mack. They already have Bosa, but add Danielle into that mix too. So having 3 premium edge rushers who can all be on the field at the same time, that's fantastic, man. Plus adding Kendricks, falling Kendricks into LA. Danielle and Kendricks are pretty close. So the Chargers do have 21 and 125 overall, going on that first and fourth compensation route. So overall, reiterating for the 17,000th time, I think the Vikings should pay Danielle Hunter, but if they are going to trade him, I think there's a number of teams who would be champing at the bit for his services, and I do think that if they can get something similar to the Bradley Chubb deal, they would have to think about it, especially since the Vikings only have five draft picks, and if they could do something where they could package, like 25, 21, 26 with their 23rd overall pick, potentially move up for a quarterback, I would do it. I would seriously think about it. But your thoughts are thoughts. 8 potential trade destinations for Danielle Hunter and compensation. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.